bunch of the boys was whooping it up in the Malamute saloon, and the kid that handled the music box was hitting a jagtime tune. Back of the bar in a solo game sat Dangerous Dan MacGrew, and watching his luck was his light of love, the lady known as Lou. When out of the night that was 50 below and into the din and the glare, there stumbled a miner, fresh from the creek, dog dirty and loaded for bear. He looked like a man with a foot in the grave and scarcely the strength of a louse, but he tilted a poke of dust on the bar and called for drinks for the house. There were none could place that stranger's face, though we searched ourselves for a clue. But we drank his health, and the last to drink was Dangerous Dan MacGrew. There are men who somehow just grip your eye and hold them hard like a spell, and such was he, and he looked to me like a man who'd lived in hell, with a face most hair and the dreary stare of a dog whose day is done. He watered the green stuff in his glass, and the drops fell one by one. And I got to figuring who he was and wondering what he'd do. And I turned my head, and there watching him was the lady known as Lou. Well, his eyes went rubbering round the room, and he seemed in a kind of daze, when at once the old piano lay in the way of his wandering gaze. The ragtime kid was having a drink. There was no one else on the stool. So the stranger stumbles across the room, and he flops down there like a fool, in a buckskin shirt that was glazed with dirt. He sat, and I saw him sway. Then he gripped those keys in his taloned hands. My God, but the man could play. Were you ever out in the great alone, when the moon is awful clear, and the icy mountains hems you in with a silence you most can hear, and there's only the cry of the timber wolf as you're parked out there in the cold, a stark dead thing in a stark dead world, clean mad for a muck called gold. And high overhead, green, yellow, and red, the north lights swept in bars. Then you've a hunch what the music meant. Hunger, the night, and the stars. And on hunger not of the belly kind that's banished with bacon and beans, but a gnawing hunger of lonely men for a home and all that it means, for a fireside far from the cares that are, four walls and a roof above, and oh so crammed full of cozy joy, and crowned with a woman's love. A woman dearer than all the world, and true as heaven is true. God, how ghastly she looks through her rouge, the lady known as Lou. Then of a sudden the music changed, so soft that you scarce could hear, but you felt like your soul had been looted clean of all that it once held dear, that someone had stolen the woman you love, that her love was a devil's lie, that your guts were gone and the best for you was to crawl away and die. It was the crowning cry of heart's despair, and it thrilled you through and through. I guess I'll call it a spread, Monsieur, says Dangerous Dan MacGrew. The music almost fades away. Then it burst like a pent-up flood, and it seemed to say, repay, repay, and my eyes were blind with blood. The thought came back of an ancient wrong, and it stung like a frozen lash. The lust awoke to kill, and the music ends with a crash. And the stranger turned, and his eyes they burned in a most peculiar way. In a buckskin shirt that was glazed with dirt he sat, and I saw him sway, and his face went in a kind of grin, and his voice was calm. And boys, says he, you don't know me, and nobody cares a damn, but I'd like to state, and my words are straight, and I bet my poke they're true, that one of you is a hound from hell, and that man is Dan MacGrew. Well, I ducked my head and the lights went out. 2 guns blazed in the dark. A woman screamed and the lights came up. 2 men lay stiff and stark. Pitched on his head and pumped full of lead was Dangerous Dan MacGrew, while the man from the creek lay clutched to the breast of the lady known as Lou. Now, these are the simple facts of the case, and I guess I ought to know. They say that stranger was crazed with hoochin'. I'm not denying it's so. I'm not so wise as the lawyer guys, but strictly between us two, the woman who kissed him and pinched his poke was the lady known as Lou.